My journeys. I am hosting your conversation today. My name is Parimal. I am Cerritos College Class of 95. On behalf of Cerritos College Foundation, welcome to everybody that's here today, and welcome to everybody who will be listening to this on the YouTube channel later in the week and the month. Today we have one of our trustee alumni who's also part of our alumni council at the college. She is class of 85. She could talk to us what life was like back in the Stone Ages. Sorry about that, Desiree. I had to go there,
Okay.
but please welcome Desiree Williams. Hello.
Hi, everyone. Yes, 1985. We debated whether to put the year, but I thought, why not?
Why
The
not?
day when
Why
we didn't
not?
have cell phones and we had to figure it out. So I
Didn't
figured
have
out a
cell
lot.
phones. Didn't have internet. Didn't even have pagers. I mean, you just pretty much had to. Well, I mean, you had landlines. I guess that was something.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
tell us. I mean, you've been on campus recently, and you're clearly on campus in the mid '80s. Well, I'm just going to start with a fun question. What are some of the biggest differences that you've noticed on campus? How much has Cerritos College changed in the past? Hate to say it, 35 years.
Quite a bit. I was amazed, awed, shocked, and impressed at the same time. Cerritos has always been a great college. It was back in the 80s. It continues to grow, it continues to progress. It looks like a nice Ivy League college almost because of the automotive center, the cosmetology school. They've really put a lot of money into not just transfer students like myself, but also people who want to specialize in some other industry. And maybe they don't want to transfer to a four-year college. Maybe they want to do something different. So I'm so impressed and I'm so grateful for everything they've given me. And now I'm giving back at a time where they definitely need it.
Very good. So let's go back to the mid '80s. You're high school senior. You're getting ready to graduate, and you're looking at your are you looking at your future at this point, and kind of what are you seeing your life in the next 5-10 years after high school?
Well, both parents were big into school. They met at
Hmm.
Cal State LA. My dad earned his Juris Doctorate degree. My mom has her master's in sociology. So it wasn't, are you going to college? It was, you are going to college, and which college are you going to? Well, I went to a public high school and I had a great time and I was not challenged. So my grades were not, they were not high enough for the schools I want to go to. Ultimately, my private school, Loyola Marymount, where I eventually ended up, and also some of the state schools. I probably could have gone into one of the state schools, but it was a tough road and I didn't have any direction. So I said, Dad, why don't I go to Cerritos? I will improve my GPA and I will make you proud. So that's how that happened.
Okay, so you now arrive on Cerritos College. You said you kind of had lacked some direction, so or at least you maybe were still trying to figure things out. What helped you start the process of figuring things out, and what was kind of the things you had to go through to figure out where you wanted to go?
Well, like I said, my dad was, thou shalt go to college. So he happened to know a man named Marcelino Saucedo, and he was a career counselor over at Cerritos, academic advisor, I think they were called. And he made an appointment with Mars, and Mars told me what to take. And I said I want to transfer to either one of the Long Beach State or to Loyola Marymount and help me get there. So fortunately, I had that direction. I did meet a lot of students who did not have that direction, and hopefully through our alumni council, we can help them guide them over to the counselors and the academic advisors. They're very good, and they will help you get to where you need to go. So I knew at that point I had to straighten up, and I couldn't just take. At the time, we had home economics and driver's ed and all kinds of fun classes in high school, and I couldn't have fun anymore. So I had to be serious, and that's what I did. But I'm hoping all the new incoming students recognize what Cerritos offers and gives you that chance to move forward.
So what's interesting is to me where you started in terms of the first major you had at Loyola, and then where you ended up after grad school. So for perspective, you transferred from Cerritos to Loyola Marymount. You majored and got your degree in psychology, and then afterwards you ended up getting your MBA from Pepperdine. So two very different directions here, although psychology is important business nonetheless, but still two different career paths. So when you were in Cerritos College in Loyola Marymount afterwards, you were pursuing, you started to pursue a career in psychology, or at least that seemed like that was the direction you're going to go in. What was attractive to you about that career path, and where did you think you were going to go with that career or academic training?
So from Cerritos, I transferred to Loyola and thrilled that that happened because it was my dream school, and majored in psychology because I wanted to go into marriage and family counseling because I was felt as if I wanted to help people and do things for people. And that's kind of what guidance counselors do too, academic advisors. But that's what I wanted to do for a living. And I took all the courses, and within that program, I had to serve some volunteer time through hospice and work with patients, obviously, who were terminally ill. And then I had to work with other young children and people just as volunteers and to earn my hours who were having really troubled lives, let's put it that way. Alcohol addiction, drug addiction. And it was so emotional for me. I couldn't handle it. I just couldn't do it. So I said, okay, let's finish this degree. Let's move on. I was working in retail department stores at the time, and these department stores don't exist anymore. They're the Broadway and Robinson's May and May Company before it was Robinson's May, Bullock's, Bubbums. That was my world. So I was in department store retail, and I said, well, maybe I'll just stay in retail and move on that way. So I did that. But anyway, I finished my bachelor's degree at Loyola, stayed in department store retail. I ended up moving up through that chain, became an assistant buyer. I thought I was going to go to Italy and travel and have this big budget as a buyer for the Broadway, and I was going to buy all these leather goods. And I ended up in denim, boys 8 to 20 denim jeans. So the only two vendors I had were Bugle Boy and Levi, and they were local vendors. So that wasn't very much fun. So long story short, then I ended up, thinking I've got to move on. Maybe I get a business degree. And I did that while I was traveling for another company called Hanes Brands, the underwear Hanes. I was a regional manager for them. And I had 22 people under me, and they would travel all over the Southwest. I was traveling quite a bit, and they were based on the East Coast. I was traveling domestically every single week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I was home Mondays and Fridays, which was great and fun. But after 5 years of it, it's a lot on yourself, your body, your life, you name it. So I said, no, I've got to get this business degree. And while I was at Hanes, they had some tuition reimbursement programs, and I ended up at Pepperdine.
Nice. Were you on the Malibu campus?
We rotated.
You were
So
taking
I was in the executive MBA program, and we rotated. There was the Malibu campus is where we graduated. Malibu campus is where we do our orientation. But I also, one weekend, we had a Long Beach campus at the time, which was just perfect, right over there by the World Trade Center. And then we also went to Irvine, and we have a campus over by LAX. So we would rotate the campus locations. We only had to meet, that program was perfect for me. We only had to meet 1 weekend a month. I was able to finish that in a year and a half and be done with my MBA and decide where I wanted to go from there.
Okay. So when you were over at Pepperdine, what kind of did you start getting some clarity in terms of like, all right, this is where I want to go? And if just what was your thought process like at that point? Because at this point, you've already went through college, you went through a short stint in retail. So what's now your focus and your clarity that you've had?
So now I wanted to possibly do some consulting or move up in a regional corporate role. But as I shared with you, I was traveling so much, I literally did not have a life. I did some software training and consulting during that time. And I said, I need to be on ground. I need to be local. And I love higher ed. I finished my MBA. I told all the counselors there, this is such a great program. I'm going to tell everybody about it. I joined the Alumni Association, told all the alums, it's such a great program. You should get your MBA at Pepperdine, 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 Pepperdine. So one of the career counselors said, well, you talk about how great we are and you talk to everybody you see. Why don't you do that for a living? And I said, wow, they have that? And she said, yes, they have people, they're called recruiters, who travel and locally and try to get people to come and earn their MBA from Pepperdine as opposed to the other schools in the area. So that's what I did for 7 years.
Nice. So, are you a recruiter now, or is that kind of where you're at now, or where are you now with Pepperdine? Because basically, you kind of got a job at Pepperdine almost out of your MBA program, so you've been there for a while. And
Right.
so, I know you didn't start off as a recruiter, but are you still a recruiter now, or if not, what are you doing?
So now I'm in the Career Center. So I did recruitment for 7 years
Hmm.
and it was great. I loved it. I wouldn't have done it that long if I hadn't loved it so much. And I am an alum, so I didn't really need to work in alumni relations, but I wanted to expand my horizons in higher ed. And I ended up talking to one of the executive director for the Career Center. And I said, I've encouraged people to come and earn their MBA, and now they have a degree that costs them quite a bit of money. And I would like to help them on the other hand, because now I can help them define their career just like I did with my own. So I ended up interviewing and I earned a job reaching out to employers. So primarily I reach out to alums who are employed by Google, Facebook, Tesla, Mazda, IBM, B of A, AT&T, you name it, and ask them to help either mentor or provide internships or information sessions for our current students, for our MBA students.
Got it. Okay. So it's interesting how the tables have kind of turned because when you arrived at Cerritos College, you were the one getting the advice and the direction, and now you're giving it. And so I kind of want to get a sense from you of what did you learn from your own life and your own process to kind of be a resource to people now who need their own sense of direction in their academic journey?
That's a good one. So I learned you can waste a lot of time in your life if you don't know what you want. But on the flip side, not everybody knows what they want. We have people, I can tell you for a fact, at our law school who don't want to practice law. I've heard of people who have doctorate degrees who come back and get their MBA because they don't want to be either they don't want to be a doctor or they have to run their own practice and they need the MBA to help them run their own practice. So it's time, it's effort, it's really tough when you don't know where you want to go or you don't have the connections. So I feel personally, along going back to when I wanted to be in counseling, right? I wanted to be a marriage and family counselor. I am counseling now, but it's on a different level. It's in a business environment. It's me. It's not personal issue. It is personal, but it's primarily professional.
All
And
right.
when you're happy professionally in our world, you're also happy personally because you're doing what you love.
Right, right. Okay. I want to take now a step back because we've kind of seen your overall arc, but let's bring it back to Cerritos College real quick. And kind of first of all, how many years were you on campus?
I was there 2 years.
You were there for 2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
What was your own personal evolution in those 2 years? Like go from day one to end of year two. Did you see a personal growth yourself? And can you describe what that growth was?
Yes. The first year I was a kid. I was a kid because I had all fun classes when I was in high school and I wasn't taking it seriously, which is why I wasn't going straight into a four-year college. And so I was just a kid. I was in the student center, talking to everybody, talking, having a great time, getting to know everybody, and not really focusing. And then I was listening to people in the student center who had been there quite a few years, and same reason. They didn't know what they want to do. They didn't have direction. They kept changing their major. And that's when I realized I had to rein it in. But I got to tell you, I had a great time. My first year was so much fun. I was in all the activities and ate. The food was good there. I presume it still is at the cafeteria. The food was really good, and I spent a lot of time there, just doing fun stuff and hanging out with my friends. It was another high school for me,
Okay. All
first
right.
year, and then I
I,
had to get serious.
so this was a question I was going to ask. It's also being asked submitted by one of our viewers right now. And I was kind of curious, did you have a favorite teacher? Was there a professor that stood out for you? And why? What was about this professor or teacher that kind of drove it home for you?
I wouldn't say a specific teacher. I think that academic advisor was my favorite one. Salcedo was his last name. And the only reason I knew him was because he was in Toastmasters with my dad.
Ah,
So it wasn't a specific teacher, but I loved all my teachers. And a lot of them also worked at a lot of them worked at Long Beach State, UCLA. I mean, they have top-notch professors. They're really good. And I don't think anyone should take that for granted. And there are times still today where I hear, oh, it's community college. Oh, it's not, same level, whatever. And that's not true. I can tell you for a fact. I can tell you from my experience, that's not true. A lot of them
so
teach at Cerritos and other places.
that was actually exactly my next question is, did you feel like I mean, obviously, Cerritos College is affordable, and so did you feel like you got a bang for your buck, and you pretty much got college level education at an actual college, right?
Oh, yes, definitely. And at that time, bang for my buck, I couldn't even tell you what tuition cost in 1985. $10? No, I have no idea.
I
But I
think
paid it. Go
I
ahead.
think when I was there about 9, 10 years after you, and it was $13 per unit when I was there. So it might have been free when you were there, right? Or were
It
they already
was
charging by
no,
then?
it cost money, but it wasn't what today's world is, and it wasn't certainly what. Sorry to say, Pepperdine, I love you, but it's not what Pepperdine charges per unit. I mean, we're in the
Yeah,
thousands.
yeah. No, I mean, I'll just quickly share my story. I mean, for me, it was like I did like you. I spent a year and a half. I did a year and a half in Cerritos College, and I was paying $13 a unit, and then I transferred to UCLA. And I was complaining back then about tuition being 1,700 a quarter. So at five, that's basically like 5,100 a year. And I was complaining about that. I'm like, $5,100 a year for UCLA. Hell, that's expensive. Now it's closer to 25, 30,000. So, I mean, just,
Yeah.
to give you some perspective, it quadrupled or so since I left. And so you're right. I mean, it's talk about today's prices versus when you or I were in school. It's a lot different, right?
Oh, completely. But it was worth every penny, and I had to pay for my own. Wasn't that much at the time, but through my part-time job at the department store, I paid all my tuition, my books, my everything. Again, because my dad says you're paying for it. If you're not going to be serious, you know, that'll make it happen, which it did. I have to
Yeah.
do that. It did.
Just curious, what did you get your AA in? What would you graduate in?
So I didn't do an AA at the time. You could transfer with 56 units, and I think an AA was 60 something units. It probably still is.
Yeah.
So when I went to the counselor, I said, if I'm going straight, if I'm transferring, maybe I can skip those extra units and go straight into a four-year college. So I was able
And
to
that's what
do
happened.
that.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I do have a few more questions from our audience. So I want to start to throw those your way real quick, if you don't mind. And so the first one we have is how and why did your transition, or how and why did you transition your career from the business sector to higher education?
I did primarily, well, I shared about the travel, but I do have an affinity for learning and for higher ed, and this gave me the chance to do that. Um, it was a huge transition. You make way more money in the private sector, so if anyone's thinking, well, I don't know about other colleges, but if anyone's thinking higher ed pays better than, unless you're a professor, than a regular business sector consulting position, it's night and day, but the stress level is much lower. I don't travel as much. I do get to travel internationally though with the students. So we have a business intensive course that we
Hmm.
take, the global business intensive course that we take the students out on. And I've been to France, I've been to Germany, I've been to Ireland 2 times. We visit companies in those countries and talk about what it's like to do business in those countries, typically with about 2 faculty and 25 students, something like that. So the travel bug has arisen again internationally until
Hmm.
COVID.
Yeah.
but but yeah, I wanted something that's a little more structured, something that's a little more stable. I can tell you, department store retail is not stable. It wasn't then. It certainly isn't now, and I just can't. I couldn't keep up with the change. I said, you know what? I need something solid and an opportunity where I can sit into a class anytime, even today, sit in a class, an MBA class, and refresh my mind, refresh my memory, help students along the way, and I get to take at least one trip every 2 years is how they do it.
Nice. Nice. Okay. This is a little bit of a personal question. Did you find being Latina in the business sector challenging?
It Uh-oh, he froze a little bit.
Okay, I'll ask it again. Did you
Yeah.
find being a Latina in the business sector challenging?
I did. I did because it's a different culture. It wasn't so much in the business sector because we have all kinds in, especially in retail world. But I can tell you I did at Pepperdine, and I still talk about that today because we are known as a, I'm going to just say it, and please don't be offended, but we're known as a predominantly white cultural surfer dude type of school. We're based in Malibu. But
Mhm.
statistically, that's not true. But when I first came there, that was the perception. And when I got accepted to Pepperdine, people in my family said, "Oh, you can't go to Pepperdine; it's too expensive." People in there aren't any Hispanics there. Blah 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 blah. And it's just not true. There's everything. We are inclusive. We are wonderful. That's not the case. But yeah, when I first got there, I was scared to go, first of all. And when my own family kept saying, "Oh, you got accepted there. That's for rich people, or that's for privileged people," or it just wasn't true. So it's all perception, but I fit in perfectly. It was
And
fun.
I think what kind of plays into that perception is your school nickname. It's the Waves, you know.
The
So like, hey,
waves.
the Waves, you're Pepperdine Waves. You're a school of surfers. You're again, you said you're in Malibu, and you're at the far west side of Malibu. You're not even like on the LA. You're pretty far from the LA border. So you're definitely the part of Malibu that's considered, you know, surferish, and so I could definitely see how that the perception existed. So, but you're right. I've been to Pepperdine several times myself. I've worked at school actually for a bit on a project, and my experience is similar to yours. Even in my brief time, it was definitely diverse. It definitely represented a lot of viewpoints and a lot of people. So, you know, despite the perception out there, I think it is what you said it is. It's a great school that has a lot to offer. So, that's great. You were able to overcome the at least you were had an experience that was better than the perception.
Definitely.
So, next one, this is kind of also putting you on the spot. A person asked, "What is the one piece of advice you would give to a current student at Cerritos College?"
I would say I'm going to give you the advice they gave me. Don't listen to people in the student center. Because I would hear, honestly, I would hear, "Oh, I'm going to have to take this, or I'm going to have to take this many more units, or I'm never going to be able to major in such and such because I didn't do that." Go to your academic advisor and just focus and be serious. I mean, have fun. Believe me, I had so much fun my first year. I felt like it was an extension of high school. And then my second year, I had to rein it all in and stop listening to everybody. And it could be family too. I've heard students say, "I haven't told my mom I want to change my major, or I haven't told my dad I'm going to go into business instead of law, or I'm going to," all the examples that I gave you. Just be true to yourself and be true to your family, and don't be afraid. Just, I'm going to do this. This is what it's going to take, and make it happen. So don't give up, and don't get discouraged, because everybody struggles. Even the people that look like they have it easy, they struggle. Trust me.
Yeah, great advice. Definitely great advice. Next question is, you know, you're mentioning that, you know, your father was in the Toastmasters. So this is the Toastmasters question. And the question is, would you recommend Toastmasters to students or to anyone who wants to improve their communication skills?
I would recommend Toastmasters and anything that teaches you anything about public speaking, being confident. Look at now, we're all on Zoom. I'm on Zoom every single day. I was on in 3 Zoom meetings. Tomorrow I have another presentation to do. And if you're not comfortable, it's really stressful, and you don't need that extra stress. So
Right.
I can tell you, in the MBA program, we had to present to our entire class every single time we met, every
Mhm.
single time. A P&L, a financial opinion about a company, anything we've read, anything we've worked on, always. And so I got over that. After
Yeah.
2 years of my MBA program, I'm not afraid to talk to anybody.
Nice. Well, yeah, I could definitely tell you from just interacting with you the past 2, 3 years, I would never have guessed or at all that you're a shy person. You definitely have no qualms with talking to anybody. So that's a great skill to have. And so yeah, I mean, Toastmasters. I mean, I've my dad was a Toastmaster as well. So and he definitely was a public speaker, and he was a good one because of it. So I would agree with everything you just said. Um, I'm kind of curious if this is a fun question on my end. You went to Loyola, you went to Pepperdine. I don't know if people know this, but their rivals the same as UCLA and USC are. So do you ever get anybody, kind of prodding you to pick one school over the other when you're interacting with both? I mean, you're working at Pepperdine, but you went to Loyola, and do you ever have to choose between? Do you ever have to choose between the two schools?
Uh, no, but I work here, so it's kind of, you gotta be careful. So I'm a Loyolan and a Wave, and I never thought I would do that because they're rival schools. Because I remember when
Yeah,
I was at Loyola and Pepperdine, the Waves would come and play us in basketball. We didn't have football, but they play
yeah,
us in basketball. We got to beat the Waves. We got to beat the Waves. And who would have thunk, this back in '87, that years later, number one, I'd be working at Pepperdine. Number two, I would graduate from Pepperdine. So, but I just remember when the Waves came, we would fill Gersten Pavilion, it's called. We would
yeah.
fill Gersten Pavilion at Loyola and make sure that we cheered as loud as we could so we could beat the Waves. So that rivalry still goes on. One of my colleagues also went to Loyola Marymount and works here now, and I'm seeing more Loyolans finish their degree at Pepperdine. So I think it might just be, but I've seen UCLA, USC people too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I went to UCLA. And I can't tell you how many of my fellow Bruins would then go to USC for grad school, and vice versa. I mean, I had friends of mine who went to USC for undergrad, got their MBA or law degree or medical degree at UCLA. So it's not uncommon for people to crisscross and go to both rival schools, and it happens, right? So, and I did go to this. I'm sure I told you I went to Loyola for law school, so I'm also a Loyola Marymount grad. I don't have Pepperdine on my resume, but at least I have one school in common with you.
Yeah.
I do have another question. First of all, I do have a comment, and the comment is thank you for volunteering at the food bank, and thank you very
Oh,
much for
that's
all you
right.
do for the food bank. That we do appreciate your service there. And so the question is related to that. And why did you decide to get involved and give back to Cerritos College as a volunteer?
As well as I said, God knows where I'd be. God knows where I'd be if I hadn't gone to Cerritos. It was a local school. I grew up in Downey, and Norwalk is right next door to, and it was affordable, and it was just warm and welcoming. And if I hadn't had those, it was 2 years plus a summer, let's be honest, because I had a few classes missing, but 2 years plus a summer at Cerritos, I would have never moved on and finished my bachelor's and moved on and had the confidence to grow in my career and think about an MBA. That wasn't even on the radar when I got out of high school.
All right.
So who would have thunk I would have had a master's degree and ended up working for the school where I've earned the master's degree. So I'm always want to give back, and I do with Loyola too. I try to go to some of their alumni events, and I work at Pepperdine, so I definitely go to those alumni events. But Cerritos is where it all started. They do so much for our students and so much for people's futures that I want to be a part of it.
Nice. And I gotta ask, just to put a little cherry on top of it all. Your parents, they must be proud. How have they responded to all that you've done?
Well, the master's degree, definitely, they were just blown away. And again, I don't know if I'm speaking to the same people, but I come from a Hispanic background where I mean, there were barely anybody would go to college. My parents did, but their parents didn't even finish high school. So it was a huge deal to finish a master's degree. So it was a really big deal. My dad was very proud. And when I showed him my office at Pepperdine, it was with the big glass windows and all of that, he was just blown away. He just couldn't believe it. I thought he was going to cry. And I will share, sadly, my dad's no longer with us, but I'm sure he's hearing this information, interview, and thinking, "Wow, see, she listened to me finally after all that, after all that pushing, pushing, pushing." And my grandfather was proud, but I remember he was very old school, and women
Hmm.
didn't go to college, and he didn't understand why. Number one, I went to Loyola. And number two, why I had to get another degree and get a master's degree. He said, you didn't even need to go to college in the first place because you get married and the husband takes care of you. That's how he thought. He was very old school, but he was glad in the end, I think.
Nice,
Who
nice.
knows?
Nice. Well, I could definitely say on behalf of Richards College, where and both Matthew and myself at the foundation and everybody else, we are definitely proud of you, and you've done a great job, not just of pursuing your own life and your own passions, but giving back. I mean, you've definitely served the school very well in more ways than anybody could ask for. So thank you for everything you've done for the school. I see it, Matthew sees it, we all see it, and it's, don't think that your work goes unnoticed. It doesn't. We are proud of what you've done, so thank you, and we look forward to your continued service and all that you will continue to do for us in the years to come. And so with that, I always like to give this a little twist here. And do you have any questions for us? Just one or two questions you want to throw our way, just for fun.
Do I have a question for you specifically, or
Oh, no, right?
Cerritos in general?
Cerritos in general. You could ask me. I mean, Matthew's here. Anybody you want to ask either one of us anything, just for fun.
I will tell you. I will ask a question you may not have the answer to.
Okay.
How do you become a dean at Cerritos College? Do you have to be a faculty member first? What, or do you even know that? And I might have to ask somebody else that. I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that. You're right. Matthew, do you know the answer to that?
Yeah. You know what? I don't. That is a fantastic question. I think that most of our deans are PhDs.
Okay.
So I think it does require a very a higher education in terms of school. But I think that's a fantastic question. If anyone aspires to be a dean at Cerritos College or anywhere, definitely pursue higher education and pursue your master's degree and your doctorate and just really pursue that goal. Yeah, it's a great question.
So wait, Desiree, does this mean you would like to consider becoming a dean at Cerritos College? Is that kind of what you're hinting at?
Well, I'll tell you, I have, here at Pepperdine, we have my married name's Williams. So my maiden name was Fernandez, and then I hyphenated Fernandez Williams, now it's Williams. So we have 2 Dean Williams at Pepperdine. So the running joke is, you got the last name, you got to be a dean. But here it's a long road.
Yeah.
And I'll be like 80 years old by the time I become a dean. But okay, that's good. Or how does, for those that are listening, how do they become maybe part of the Cerritos board or more involved once they become alums, or if they are alums, they can come to events, but how do they become board members? Let's say it that way.
That's a great question too. They can definitely contact me, and I'll put my email in the chat. It's mharms@cerritos.edu, and we always look for volunteers and help anywhere we can. Desiree has been fantastic at volunteering for the LA Food Bank distribution that we have at Cerritos College every single month. She's out there representing the alumni and representing the Alumni Council, and she's been really fantastic at also recruiting her friends and members of the community to come and help her out. And I really do appreciate that, and thank you for spearheading that for us. And if you'd like to become involved in the Alumni Council or want more information on the Alumni Association and more of our events, I'll definitely put my email in the chat for you guys right now.
Cool. Thank you, Matthew. And again, Desiree, thank you again. This was a great conversation, and got to learn a lot about you. And as promised, I was going to grill you.
I could ask you a question.
Sure. Ask me anything.
All right. So what was your first year like at Cerritos?
Oh, man. So
what brought you there?
What brought me there? So I think my story is quite similar to yours. I grew up in a household where higher education was valued. My dad had a master's degree. My mom earned her bachelor's in India. And, so both my parents went to college. So it was given that college was in my cards. I mean, it was never a question. So it was just like you, it was never thought about like, okay, if you're going to college, it was just a matter of where. And similar to you, I had a couple of schools I wanted to go to, but didn't have the grades to go straight to high school. My dream school was UCLA, and I wanted to go there really bad, but I didn't get in out of high school. And so it became a question of like, okay, if I can't go to UCLA, where can I go? And I decided to go to Cerritos College because I was adamant about going to UCLA. So it was basically like, all right, let's try again. Let me go to this community college that's also close to my house. It's also affordable. And learn what I need to do to to have a second chance at getting to Westwood. And that's exactly what happened. I walked in, just like you, I walked into a counselor's office. His name was Stephen Helfgott. And I told him my plan. I was like, I want to get to UCLA by my junior year. How do I get there? And he pulled out a piece of paper and said, here's the classes here's kind of the roadmap you have to take. And if you do it and you get your grades, you'll get into UCLA. And that's exactly what I did. And so I started in the summer of 94 and took two classes. One was a history class, one was a psychology class. Got A's in both classes. And then jumped around the fall and just continued. It's like, you know what? I that first summer of classes, got a 4.0. Let's keep this going. And I kept my grades up. And then this is the fun part. This is the best part of the story. Is October of 95. My dad and my mom and I went to UCLA to visit to kind of inquire about, okay, I'm ready to transfer. My intent was to transfer in the fall of 96, so to complete my second full year at Cerritos, and then transfer in for the fall. While we're at that meeting with one of the student advisors at UCLA, it was in Murphy Hall, which, if anybody knows UCLA, Murphy Hall is the most dreaded building. Everyone that went to UCLA hated going to that building, absolutely hated that building. It's the admin building, and if you go in there's no good reason to be in there. You're paying your tuition, you're dropping a class, you're in trouble with your financial aid. Something's wrong if you went to Murphy Hall, right? And so I'll never forget that, of being in there, and then the student advisor telling my family and I, like, wait, it's October 15th. You have 2 weeks to apply to be admitted for spring quarter 96. And I was like, whatever, spring quarter, whatever. No, I'll finish my spring semester of Cerritos College and come in September 96. My mom was like, the hell you are? It's like, you're applying your application in 2 weeks. I'm like, no, I'm not. It's like, yes, you are. Like, she literally made me apply in 2 weeks. And lo and behold, on October 31st, 1995, I still remember the day, I got my application mailed in, had to be postmarked that day, and I mailed it in. And about 6 weeks later, I got my admission letter and I got in. And the thing is, the reason I was hesitant, because I thought spring quarter, because it's mid-year, they don't admit people as freely because you already have your seats filled for the year, right? And other schools I applied to, Berkeley and UC San Diego and UC Irvine, weren't accepting for spring. So I'm like, it's not going to happen. And then I got my letter and I got in. And so God bless Mom for making me to do this. And then it helped even more that somehow, because of the way I played it, I got a full scholarship at UCLA for my entire time there. And so, I ended up spending more money at Cerritos College than I did at UCLA. Go figure. But yeah, that's just kind of how it worked out, where it's like I walked in with a specific mission of, I want to go to UCLA. That was my first day at Cerritos College. I'm going to find a way to get to UCLA. And I did. And like I said, my path, Desiree, is very similar to yours in terms of, our high school lives, why we decided to go to Cerritos College. And we came with a destination in mind. We were given a path, and we took the path, and we took it seriously. And I think that's kind of the point here, is like, if you have some form of plan, the plan doesn't have to work per se in terms of like at the end, because I came to school wanting to be in politics and ended up being in and now I'm in journalism. So I took it just like you. I took a different career path. Your initial plan doesn't have to work, but I think the point is you have to have a plan. You come to Cerritos College with some plan, and you stick to it. Somehow, some way, you'll get to where you're destined to be. And I think that's kind of the point. And it worked for you. It worked for me. I'm sure it worked for hundreds, if not thousands, of others. So thank you for sharing your story, Desiree. Thank you for asking that question and allowing me to share my story. And that was my experience.
Right. And you mentioned volunteering. I just want to share with everybody too. I volunteer, in fact, maybe too much, but I volunteer for everything. Like, I'm on the Women's Council for our local church here, St. Anne's in Seal Beach. And I do the food drives, as you know. Pepperdine does a Step Forward Day. Loyola Marymount does an outreach day. And you will be shocked at how many people you meet. I do, networking is a big deal. It's a big deal in today's world. That's how you find jobs. You can apply to jobs all day long, every day, but if you don't know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, or knows something about the corporate culture at different companies, it's going to be a tough road. So I encourage you. I know you're busy. I know you're studying. I know you're focused, but volunteer for something, because I met a lot of great people at the food drives. I've met people, you know, what is it, Habitat for Humanity. Once we were painting a fence, and I was talking to some people I went to school with at Loyola, and we just had a great time, and I got to know people at other companies. So think about that too.
Excellent. Yeah, volunteering is always a good thing to do. So thank you for that. Anything else you want to share before we call it a night?
No, just keep, like you said, focused, right? Stay focused. Don't listen to the people in the student center like I used to do. It'll add an extra year to your Cerritos College stay.
Mhm.
You can always come back and visit. You might as well just get through it, move on, and come back with us and be part of the Alumni Council. I highly encourage it.
Excellent. Me too. Well, thank you for your chat today. Thank you for sharing your story and allowing us to share a part of your life. Matthew, also, thank you for giving us the opportunity to have this conversation as well. I mean, we value the fact that Cerritos College has given us a platform to have these discussions. We know how important this is, not just for the people that we're interviewing, but for the people to be listening as well. So, Matthew, thank you so much for all of that you do for us. I think we need to all give you a hand, because you do a lot, and I don't know if you get enough accolade for what you do, but we are really proud of the work you do. So thank you for all you do.
Yes, thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, guys. And I just want to let everybody know that both Desiree and Parimal are co-chairs of the Alumni Council, and the council helps to plan a lot of these events and our volunteer duties. And both Desiree and Parimal have just been fantastic volunteers and really exemplify what Cerritos College alums are. And they're both fantastic people. And I just want to say thank you to them as well for kind of being here with me and helping me out, and always being a great support. So thank you both.
Cool. And I think with that, we could call it a night and enjoy the rest of our Wednesday evening.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah,
Thanks, everybody.
thank you. Yeah, thank you, everyone.